So that then is the modern Hindu pantheon, or at least what are arguably the most important characters in it. There's really no upper limit on the gods and goddesses that can be worshipped in Hinduism. But now, haven't I just presented what is obviously a polytheistic religion? Some people think so. Sometimes you'll see Hinduism described this way, particularly in Western and Christian sources. Other sources will strongly insist that, nope, Hindus have never been polytheists, they've always been monotheists. So what on earth is going on? Well, let me tell you, my friends, nothing, I mean nothing, is simple about Hinduism. Just about anything I tell you, there'll be some exception to it. So it's really, really hard to lecture on in a responsible way. I'll tell you what my take is as a philosopher on this matter of polytheism and monotheism. At the level of stories, we have stories about a bunch of different deities, a bunch of different gods and goddesses. And I think that it must be the case that to many ordinary Hindus, to Hindus not much given to theology, to theorizing, there just is a pantheon of gods and goddesses, and they differ somewhat in which one, if any, they think is the highest god or the highest goddess. So if you just believe there are many gods, a further question is, well, which god is on top? Another question is, which gods or gods should you concern yourself with? There's only so much time, right? There are different kinds of clashes between the different stories. I mean, is Krishna just a human avatar of Vishnu, or is Krishna the high god himself? Or is Vishnu the high god? Is Vishnu merely a servant of Shiva, or vice versa? In some Vaishnavite literature, clearly the highest god is Vishnu, and Shiva is a servant of Vishnu and created by Vishnu. In some Shaivite literature, clearly Shiva is the highest god, and Vishnu is created by Shiva and is subordinate to Shiva. And what about Shiva? Is he a male, as in most of the stories? Is he both male and female, as in some of the portrayals? Is really Shiva neither one of those? And in various of the myths, the gods clash with one another. They disagree, they fight. Sometimes a god will kill a goddess and so on, but she comes back to life. Sometimes the gods are temporarily defeated and set back by the demons, also called asuras. And the gods, sometimes lose their temper, do things that seem like mistakes. I think it's probably always been the case that more philosophical, more reflective Hindus have a strong tendency to say that all of these gods and goddesses are really manifestations or different forms of the one God, the one ultimate being. As we've seen, they differ somewhat on who this ultimate being is. Some say it's Krishna, some Vishnu, some Shiva, some the goddess, the great goddess Mahadevi. It's not clear to me how much this has varied over time. Clearly, some of the Puranic literature is very sectarian, that it's concerned to exalt Shiva or Vishnu as against the others and to demote the others. In any case, in modern Hinduism, this monotheistic tendency is very strong. One might wonder if this is in part a reaction to the succession of Muslim and Christian overlords in early modern times. That is, it's possible that the Christian critique of Hindu tradition as just this cacophony, this unorganized mess of different traditions of what they would call paganism and idolatry. It's possible that this is in part a reaction against that there is nothing disorganized about this. This is really all just what the one God does. And you see this idea commonly expressed nowadays that God, the one God, however understood, whoever that is so gracious that God is willing to interact with people in any of these forms because, different strokes for different folks. Some people prefer God, some a goddess. Some prefer Kali, some Shiva, some Vishnu, some Durga. And the idea is that God generously manifests as all these forms and makes himself present in all these different idols and representations so that all different sorts of people can have access to God. You might think that there are way too many choices here, that a Hindu would be strongly burdened with the task of picking which god or goddess to worship. In fact, this is just not so. Hindus talk about Ishta Deva or Ishta Devata. This means a worshipper's own preferred or beloved deity. As far as picking gods, sometimes the choice is made for you because your village has a goddess associated with it, your family is traditionally dedicated to some god, your particular caste has traditionally worshipped some god or gods. So typically your choice of god will be, to a large extent, picked for you. Perhaps the most usual pattern is for a Hindu to focus on several deities, perhaps with one main one, and then sort of opportunistically appeal to various other ones at the right time. If you need help with your schooling, you may worship at the shrine of Sarasvati. If you feel you need some money or some better luck, you may worship Lakshmi on that occasion, but not so much at other times. Or you may worship Ganesh when starting a project. So the basic attitude is, pick whichever one you want. It doesn't really matter. And if they really are all manifestations of one deity, then that would make sense. It would all just be worshiping the one highest God in different ways. So is it monotheism or polytheism? It can be both. And we'll also see when we take a quick look at Hindu philosophy that for some Hindus, particularly intellectuals and philosophers, the highest reality, the ultimate being, isn't a personal god. The personal gods and goddesses for these Hindus are just kind of a surface appearance, really an illusion, a lesser way to approach the ultimate, which is called Brahman. So some Hinduism is theistic. It has to do with personal deities. In fact, it's all focused around personal devotion to one or more deities. And some Hinduism, again, Hindu philosophy in particular, is really not theistic. It considers worship of gods to be a lower down practice that is something to be grown beyond. We'll look a little bit into that next time.